in this turn.
Yeah, this seems like this the safest line to take here, is just simply doing that, rolling up, putting some counters on your creatures, and then having giant growth to save your 1/1s from something like Stomp.
Suppose you could even prey upon the Guardia if you wanted to just send a message.
Oh yeah, sometimes you just need your opponent to know that they have lost.
The 1/1 getting frisky too. I like it.
Look, 9 + 1, 10. There's your basic two-hand math for you.
Again, I wish Matthias were here. I wish I were Matthias. This would all be so much easier. But as we cut to game 3 now, do you think Cedric's approach is going to change on the draw, or is he going to just snap off that submit button?
I don't think it's going to shift too dramatically. I know you mentioned that previous interaction with Vivian being much better when you're on the play as opposed to being on the draw. But for the most part, I think that Cedric is just maybe going to lean out a little bit of things that require having mana advantages like that giant growth and just try to play to the battlefield as much as possible.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the Stonecaller Serpent would come back in, because Sam does have a lot of multicolored creatures in his deck, and when you're on the draw, it's nice to just have those extra versatile cards that can fill any spot in the curve that you need them to. Gem Razor doesn't really have any good targets here. Its only function is to make one of your creatures slightly larger, which is fine, but maybe not what you're in the market for.
Yeah, the big thing here is it's very similar to the Frostburn Weird Tidebinder Mage dynamic we saw with Mono Blue Mirrors in Devotion Standard a few years ago, where if you call that shot and you're wrong, you lose the entire game because of it. So putting all of your eggs in that basket just seems unnecessarily risky.
And this is a promising hand here for Cedric. No blisteringly fast start, but he does have Large Rock Beast with potentially Oakham Adversary to curve out nicely, and then the Vivian and the Stonecaller Serpent with Ram Through to both build his own battlefield and punch through his opponents if he has the time to do that.
Right, and look at this Oakham Adversary. That card is going to do some work in a matchup like this one.
Yeah, that cycle of cards that affect other cards or decks of the same color from Throne of Eldraine really coming into play, most notably with Mystical Dispute, but also with Redcap Melee and Oakham Adversary in the same vein as those two.
Ooh, Robber the Rich taking that land that Cedric kind of needs to be able to find off the top.
Always a feel bad when Robber the Rich actually gets a card in these aggro mirrors. But Oakham Adversary here might do a decent job of stabilizing if Sam has no way to remove it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just having a 2/3 against a pair of 2/2s forces Sam to actually have more to commit to the battlefield in order to punch through what Cedric's put down on the second turn.
And what Cedric wants more than anything else is that third land. I think playing that Large Rock Beast or being able to maybe prey upon something and deploy a Stonecaller Serpent, that would go a long way to getting him back into this game. As it is, if he has a handful of cards but no way to deploy them, he can just get run over by these fast creatures from Jakimovski.
Well, so a Domri coming down on Sam's side is really going to do a lot to actually give him a way to attack into Cedric's battlefield here.
Absolutely. Robber the Rich now a 3/2, Hell Collector now a 3/2, and those are threatening to trade with the adversary and leave Cedric on the back foot once again.
Right, and Cedric now has to weigh if he wants to try and get a redraw off of this adversary just to make sure he can hit his land, or if he wants to trade with this Robber of the Rich, which just exiled a Questing Beast off the top of Cedric's library.
Well, you didn't want to draw that one, so I guess that's for the best. Oh, another Ram Through for Cedric.
Well, hopefully this Oakham Adversary rams through a land into Cedric's hand. We don't have to acknowledge that joke. It wasn't good.
Another Questing Beast. We have Questing Beast for days over here. Is it time to just play out that Stonecaller Serpent for 2?
It may be time to just put something onto the battlefield. All of these fight spells are not really going to give any good trades yet, and Cedric's just going to fall more and more behind if Sam gets to keep snowballing an advantage here on the battlefield.
Yeah, tough time for Cedric, who is very good at navigating these kinds of mirrors, these intricate creature races with difficult combat math. But I don't know that he's going to have the tools to get himself out of this one. Though, luckily, worth noting that Ram Through, it isn't strictly a fight spell. It just has your creature do damage. So even though if it were a fight spell, if it were prey upon, the adversary and the robber would trade, round 3 allows him to keep that adversary around for a future turn.
Exactly, and the reason that he's leaning into this is he needs to not allow Sam to get that questing beast onto the table next turn.
Pelk Collector coming in for 3, maybe a good sign that he didn't have a creature to play pre-combat to make any larger.
Right, and this is the point where Cedric has to start chump blocking, just because it's so easy for the School deck to kind of get reach out of nowhere on the back of things like Questing Beast.
And it seems like Sam is kind of out of gas here with just a second Pelk Collector and a Scryland. And anyone who has registered Pelk Collector in a tournament will know this feeling all too well. Of you have it on turn 1, you want to have it on turn 1 every game. You do not want to have it on turn 4 every game.
If I'm on Cedric's side of the battlefield, the big thing that I would be worried about here is just finding a copy of Embercleave off the top on Sam's side. You have to imagine there's something in hand that made him keep this, and that would make a lot of sense.
And just another adversary there for Cedric, so really behind the 8 ball on this one. And yeah, if Sam has that Embercleave to finish the game, there's really not much that Cedric can do about it.
Right, that's the one spell in the deck that Domri is not particularly great at casting, but it feels like Sam's just actually reached the threshold now with that Temple of Abandon that Embercleave is a live spell.
Yeah, you're not getting the discount in combat with Domri's help. I guess if you want to cast it for 5 mana in your main phase, that could do it. But otherwise, yeah, you're looking to just cast it for lower than the sticker price mid-combat. And now with 3 creatures in play, Sam can do that if he has the Embercleave. And so many matches in this standard format with these aggro decks come down to, okay, maybe I'm safe. I think I can get back into this game unless there's an Embercleave. Or, the card I need to draw here to finish this game off is Embercleave. And it wins games and matches that no other card in the format could.
Right, and this is a spot where if Sam can just find another creature large enough to grow these Pelk Collectors, the game will literally end for Cedric.
Everything comes in again, and Cedric knows he has to block and just cross his fingers.
Yeah, this cannot feel good here.
But we are going to damage, so no Embercleave there, and Cedric...
Gotta feel a little sigh of relief there.
Yeah, not thrilled about that Pelk Collector getting still larger with that giant stack of triggers, but... does he want another Questing Beast? Is that going to help?
That is all 4 Questing Beasts.
So, to recap, Cedric had a Questing Beast in hand, had one Exile 2 Robber the Rich, and then drew 2 Questing Beasts in a row.
Really? That's 1 Questing Beast per paragraph of text on that card.
Yeah, per head on the Questing Beast. One head came along and it dragged the others with it.
Life imitates art sometimes.
Absolutely. So now I guess Cedric could just chump block again, but does that really get him anywhere? He might think that, he wants to be able to keep that Serpent around, and if he can resolve the Lovestruck Beast and Sam doesn't have anything, then that's his way to claw back in. How important is that versus saving some amount of life, bearing in mind that Pelk Collector now has Trample with that stack of 4 counters?
And it looks like that is